So to get started then, let's do some introductions. We've got a really great lineup for you today. So just to start off, for people who don't know me, I'm Jane Tidswell. I am leading the HE sector, the higher education sector here at People Insight. And I've been working with People Insight for quite a few years now, and with the university sector for many more. I'm going to hand over to Ania just to do a little introduction.
Hello, my name's Ania Oliveira. I'm a senior program manager at People Insight. I've been working at People Insight for about 10 years now and had the privilege of working with lots of university clients over the last few years. I'll hand over to Felicity.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Felicity Morath. I'm the head of Learning and People Development at St Mary's University in Twickenham.
Thanks, Felicity and Ania. So just in terms of the agenda then for the session today, then we've just got a little bit of an agenda that we've put forward. So here you should be able to see it. So we are going to start off with me doing a little bit of an intro about People Insight. We're then going to hand over to Felicity to give you a little bit of a case study around their survey and some of the great work that they've been doing at St Mary's. My colleague Ania is then going to talk about what she would probably say is the most important thing with a staff listening programme, the communication, and giving some tips and hints. And then we've tried to keep a bit of time for question and answers as well. And we have had quite a few come through, which is fantastic. So we've got a couple already lined up. But if you have got any questions and answers, any questions rather, then pop them in the chat and we'll see if we can get to any during the session. Finally, I am going to wrap up. I've got some really exciting updates just to give you for the last 5 or so minutes before we close, hopefully just before noon. Okay, so for those of you who don't know People Insight, we are really focused in making the HE sector a great place to work. We believe in making action happen post-survey, challenging, sharing best practice and looking at possibilities. The products and services that we have are very intuitive and user-friendly, all designed to support you get the most out of your listening activities. And this is really the why we do what we do, why, you know, our passion for working with the sector is absolutely to support, share and make the sector an even better place to be and to work. In terms of People Insight, well, we provide the tools, support and expertise to successfully implement employee voice activities, looking at now and also in the future as well. So when we start looking at where we want to be, longer term visions and plans, we have a really great platform and the technology to be able to do that. It gives you data, insight and action all in one place. We can scale the platform, so we can expand it. We can add different functionality as a program changes, adapts, evolves. We've got great people here, so many of you will have met and been working with lots of our great people. Many of us have got lots of experience and expertise working with the higher education sector to help with that support, designing, interpretation, facilitation, capability build. There's a whole host of different elements that we work with and partner with our lovely clients to support various listening activities. And then also the action side of things. So really making sure that the results were focused in terms of aligning the survey data with outcomes and what's going to happen with the survey results post-survey. I'm not sure if you've can already tell, but I absolutely love working with the university sector, and I feel so privileged to be able to work with the sector here, and for People Insight to work with so many amazing universities on their staff listening programmes. So we work with nearly 60 universities now on their staff listening programmes, and it really is a programme approach for us. So rather than it being an ad hoc one-off project, we really feel the importance of having this longer term programme and looking at where we're going with the staff listening. So it's great for us that this partnership we have with many universities with long-term programmes in place. And when it comes to staff listening, I'd say that, you know, every single university is on their own unique journey. no one university is on exactly the same path and doing exactly the same thing. It's slightly different. There's different needs, there's different stakeholders. As I say, they're on a different part of their listening journey. And we do work with many of these clients for that longer period of time to help with where we want them, where they want to go, where we want to get them. Working with the university sector does mean that we have really strong and robust higher education benchmarks, which is really useful to be able to provide that current context and to look at how you're doing in comparison to the HE benchmark. But also we do have very specific benchmarks too. For example, we've got the London University benchmarks, Russell Group, post-92, pre-92, which can help with that, putting results into context. It also means that we can share best practice, and we love recognizing outstanding workplaces that we see. So we work on case studies to capture information, to share that knowledge, that best practice and what we're seeing. I've made a commitment that every other month I'm going to try really hard to set up these HE webinars to share from others and to learn. So I've already lined up, should I say my next culprit, my next university to talk in December. So we'll pass some more information on about that later on. And, delighted that we do have our Outstanding Workplace Award as well, which can be for many an ambition and a target, but for others who, have achieved this, so where we've hit the various criteria, we are absolutely delighted when we can provide this to organisations. I'm now going to pass over to Felicity. It's been an absolute pleasure working with Felicity and the team on their staff survey, and actually now seeing what's happening post-survey is wonderful. So without giving anything away, Felicity, I'm going to hand over to you, and hopefully you should be able to take control. Oh, are you on mute?
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to be given this opportunity to share something that I'm really proud of. As the head of learning and people development at St Mary's, we've been on a journey. We've absolutely been on a journey, and I'm going to share some of that with you. First of all, just give you a little insight into St Mary's University. Here we are. We're based in Twickenham, and we began as a teacher training college in 1850 and only achieved full university status in January 2014. So we're a very young university compared to many of you on here. We have one campus that houses our students, academics and professional services, and specialise in sort of teacher training, sports, theology, law, health and sciences courses. And we have 750 staff, so we're a little university. Our core values as a faith-based university creates an environment of inclusivity and a collective sense of belonging, and by understanding our staff, we can encourage that and make that happen. Our alumni includes Mo Farah, Clara Anfo and Joe Wicks. And for any of you Strictly fans out there, Nikita, who was kicked out a couple of weeks ago, she also studied at St Mary's University. So yeah, we're very proud of our alumni. So what did we do to gather feedback from our staff before People Insights? We use SurveyMonkey, as I'm sure lots of people have done, but we understand that there are problems with using a system like that. The surface level insights, there's no drilling down of information, no really getting an understanding of what people are saying. We only gathered quantitative data, so meaningless numbers really, and no action was taken on the 30% response rate that we used to get. So when I joined St Mary's a year ago, we had just engaged with People Insights, and so started our fabulous journey and hard work. I'm not going to kid anybody, it's hard work, but I wanted to make a difference, and this is where People Insights came in. The reason for working with People Insights, there are several, but in particular, the platform excellence. It's able to gather quantitative but qualitative data as well with free text comments, which are then themed. The platform's delivered by psychologists, but they involved us. So they asked me what the questions we wanted to ask. They asked me what were the themes. We were able to use our language for the different themes. And as Jane mentioned earlier, for St Mary's benchmarking against other universities, because we used a lot of the questions that were already set out by People Insight, we were able to benchmark against HE people, which is so important to us as a business. We had a dedicated project manager who was absolutely fantastic, and if I dare say, held my hand all the way through, with the support of Jane, of course. But that was really, really important. I've never run a survey like this before. We also conducted pre-survey workshops. So if you're struggling to gain senior leadership uptake, let People Insight do their bit. That's what they're professional at. That's what they're so good at. And we absolutely got our senior leaders, our university executive committee, our HR business partners included in those meetings, which absolutely got their buy-in, which then and still today is really essential. We had a dry run on the results, which it just helped us get an understanding of, are there going to be any shocks that we were going to have to let our senior leadership team know about? Luckily there wasn't, but I think that dry run of the data was really, really insightful for us and enabled us to be prepared. We had dashboard demos for all of the managers who were going to get a dashboard. Again, it's an easy product to use once you know how to use it. Of course, there's loads of training on the system as well, but those sessions absolutely got managers buy-in and actual excitement at what they were going to be doing in terms of their action plans. The action plan bit is the key to the success of the staff engagement survey. So we had a 30% rate of people that said they thought we would do something with the results because we hadn't done anything with them before. And that to me was absolutely on par with other HE institutes, but not good enough for me. So everything I do now is around, as a result of the staff engagement survey. Our approach then was very different to how we had approached just using SurveyMonkey previously. We, and I'm sure a lot of you in your universities have people that want to do everything on paper. And so this was something that had stopped people doing the SurveyMonkey before, because they don't sit in front of a PC day in, day out. But I was absolutely adamant that this was going to be on the system for modernisation and for ease then of analysing the results. We wanted to connect to our sustainability goals, and previously we'd said have a cup of coffee if you complete the survey, but when we found out about the Eden Reforestation project, we absolutely bought into that, and we have a lot of people in our university who absolutely fight for the world, so this was a key part for us in terms of getting people engaged. Our SLT brought into the reasons that we wanted to conduct a staff engagement survey, and once they had seen those presentations from PI, they totally supported the project. And as Ania's going to talk about in terms of communication later, we had our VC recording a video, standing up in front of our staff saying, you need to complete this, we want to hear from you. It's anonymous, we don't know who says what, but if you're not honest, we can't then do something about that. And he really made that quite a strong point, and that's carried on again. You know, we're a few months on now to this day. So what were the results? Well, incredibly, we had a 70% response rate, so it's 130% increase on our previous surveys, which is phenomenal. And our engagement level was 72%. And as Jane mentioned earlier about the Outstanding Workplace Award, on my signature banner, I'm very proud to say that we won one of those Outstanding Workplace Awards because of how brilliantly we succeeded with our survey. So just a little bit more detail for you, because there's a lot of positivity, of course, but there are some things and challenges that we need to look about. We performed really well across areas in purpose and our culture and values, scoring well above the HE benchmark. It highlighted some areas for our improvement, which is around leadership, rewards, and then creating a stronger community atmosphere. So what did we do? What have we done so far? It's all about moving from that data. And as we know, the data is the word of the century at the moment, because you want to make informed decisions based on the data that you get from your people. So we wanted our strategy post-survey to be more immediate, so not waiting 3 months before we said anything, and much better communicated. So SLT committed to increasing their participation at in-person events, and I've got a bit to share with you shortly about that. So they're increasing their visibility, which came out as a lower score than we would have liked. We've made our benefits easier to understand and access via revamped portal. And we've created a plan to enhance a sense of community on campus by promoting our EDI networks and their mission of fostering allyship. And then yesterday, yes, this is hot off the press. You're going to know more about this than some of the staff at St Mary's University. But we had a St Mary's for You, so an SM for You event, which was all around showcasing how St Mary's supports our staff. And this is as a direct result of the staff engagement survey. It happened yesterday. I'm exhausted, but what an incredible event. As part of the feedback from the survey, we've revamped our EDI network logos to make them sharper, more exciting, brighter, better colours. And all of these networks had a table at our event yesterday. We had our benefits people, we had our mental health people, we had chaplaincy, we had Catholic group, we had the library, we had Sports St Mary's. We even had Costco, who had just written to us saying, can we come to see your university? And we were like, yes, bring cakes and you can come. And this is all about what we do for our staff, how we support our staff. So this covers 2 areas of the engagement survey results, which was, I don't know anything about the networks and I don't know anything about our benefits. We had 187 people attend yesterday, which, to let you know, is the same amount of people that have completed their appraisals, which is mandatory. So we were absolutely thrilled and delighted with these results. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm on an absolute high from such a fabulous event, but it was all about our staff. It was all about how we support our staff at St Mary's. But it doesn't stop.
And just to say that you mentioned to me around people signing up for the short courses as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We've had people sign up for our short courses. We had 4 people sign up for apprenticeships. We've had in excess of 30 people wanting to join different networks. We had 20 people sign up to Costco, which made them feel like they were pleased they were there. So the results are still coming in. That's only what I've kind of gained this morning so far, but incredible, absolutely incredible. The feedback is about no one's ever done this for our staff before. So my little idea that came from the results of the survey blossomed into this incredible event, and I'm very proud of it. Thanks, Jane, for pointing that out. It doesn't stop here. I'm not going to get people to do a survey and then walk away and they're never going to hear anything about it again. This is the start of something brilliant. We are going to be doing pulse surveys through People Insights. We are going to be doing the larger annual events through People Insights as well. Just to sort of finish off, if I may, Jane mentioned platform, people and action. That's what brought us to People Insight. The platform, easy to use. The questions are the questions we wanted. They themed those free text questions for us, so that anything about EDI, we had the free text comments there. The people are incredible. Our project manager was amazing. Jane's always been there in the background and can't thank her enough. But it's those action plans that your managers put together that just concentrate on a couple of little things that they can do differently. That's what's going to stop me getting a 38% belief that we're going to do something about our staff engagement survey. That's going to improve and increase for next time. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Felicity. I think we're going to take a few questions, actually. So let me go to questions. So one that came through that to ask you, Felicity, is around, and by the way, if anyone in the chat has got any ideas and wants to share anything with the group, please do put their thoughts on here as on the chat too. So just to start off with, how do you engage areas that have typically low engagement with staff surveys? Any nuggets, anything to share with the group?
Yeah, we have, as you all will, we have groups of catering staff, groundsmen, security, cleaners who do not sit in front of a PC every time. So we ran drop-in sessions where we invited all of those staff at different times of the day so that we could help them with their shift patterns to come in. We did give them a coffee and a Kit Kat, but that was just because they were in a group, and they were able then to fill out their surveys still with that understanding and total conviction that their answers are anonymous, because that's what stops people. So with your communication, stressing the anonymity, if I've said that word correctly, with your staff is key and crucial. We managed to get academics to complete this simply by getting buy-in from the deans, talking to people, really running joining team meetings, etc., and just talking about the benefits of them having their say, because we were going to make change.
Yeah, great, thank you. That's really, it's always a question we get asked around engagement, and with different groups as well. So yeah, you've certainly nailed that with yours. And also, your posters.
Yeah, so our posters were, we went round and took photos of real and actual people that work in the university. We made sure that we had pictures from every category, every department, I should say, so that somebody could look at that poster and say, oh, look, there's my friend the cleaner on there, so they must be, bought into this process as well. And that theme is on everything that we communicate in terms of the staff engagement survey and results and things that we're doing, so that people see it and they say, I've seen that before. Oh, I can see the link.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love the posters, and we've got a couple of organisations doing that, and it's just so nice for the different groups, because some may feel it's just for, I don't know, the academics or a certain group. So actually that inclusive nature of showing, like you say, colleagues, friends on there is brilliant. And then the other question was around turning insight into meaningful action plans. How any tips on this? How do you turn the insight into meaningful action plans when you're getting potentially the same topics coming up? Maybe workload, stress, managing change. Any tips, advice?
Yeah. Traditionally, HR has owned the results of the engagement survey, and we made it very clear this is not an HR thing, this is an all of us thing. And we really encouraged the managers to have good conversations with their teams to then create the action plans. So rather than us in HR trying to work out, okay, how do we reduce everybody's workload, which quite frankly is an impossible thing to do. However, me as a manager can look at my team and say, okay, what can I do to understand and then help my team if they are feeling stressed through workload. So it's those little actions that managers should be discussing with their teams. Ask the teams, what are their solutions? What could they recommend that happens? And then if those actions are focused locally, they're far more meaningful for those individuals within that team, rather than HR saying, right, well, what we are going to do as a university, that doesn't work. A blanket approach for something like this, and for a lot of the actions, doesn't work. It needs to be that individual team action plan.
Yeah, that meaningful, people seeing that, feeling that difference is definitely what we see as being crucial.
Yeah. And you're still making them feel like you're listening to them, because you're then doing something about it on a very local level.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Felicity, for sharing your story. I'm sure there might be questions or people wanting to connect with you after the session. But yeah, it's just been a delight to be part of this programme together with you. So yeah, watch this space for your next amazing session.
Thank you.
So moving on. At People Insight, we're obviously very keen to make sure that we set up our clients for success, and we really for action and effective action post-survey. And for us, this comes down to kind of 4 key fundamentals. So having that commitment from the top, right at the beginning, and we see this day in, day out. When we've got the senior level commitment for the programme, it can really change how that programme, how the programme sort of works, the buy-in, the different groups, the resource that's been allocated to it. Commitment from the top is so important. We also know clarity is really important for effective action planning. So making sure we know what's going to happen post-survey. And you can get so caught up in the pre-survey work and the questions and comms and everything else, but having that clarity early on of who's having access, who's seen it, who do we want to action plan, what support's needed, because that's when the hard work really starts, that post-survey. So having that clarity and managing expectations and setting them timings as well, so people know this is when things are going to be communicated. Collaboration as well, so taking staff, involving staff in the journey, the conversations, the being open and transparent with staff, incredibly important. And lastly, the 4th point is the communication. And as I said earlier, Ania would see this as the golden bullet in terms of for effective action, but also for the whole success of the programme, all coming down to that communication part. So we're really keen today to just share some tips and advice to help with communication. So I'm going to pass over to Ania.
Thank you. Take control. Well, those of you that know me, my colleagues and some of my clients will, I'm sure, all agree that I am always talking about communications. I think it's probably one of the most important elements of putting together a survey plan, because it will then lead on to creating a real programme. So, you know, carefully crafting a communication plan for your survey will ensure that you get the very best outcomes. So that all-important response rate, trust in the process, high-quality feedback, impactful follow-up, and awareness of actions afterwards as well. So it covers everything throughout, and it should really be looped around the whole project, the whole plan. And there's lots to think about. So I'll be showing you some tips for the various stages of a survey. But firstly, I think it's really important to take some time at the beginning of your project to think strategically about the communication plan that you're going to put forward. You know, it's your chance to really position the survey, which will then lead on to really building out a listening program, which is, as Jane and Felicity have talked about, so important. So I put a few points down for you to think about during that first stage. Of course, capturing attention, that's probably the first thing that everybody thinks about with a communications plan. Not just visually, but also something that people really believe in, something that resonates with the listening program. That's probably the first thing that comes to mind thinking of a communication plan. As Felicity mentioned quite a bit in her case study, which is amazing, you will need to consider your audiences, and particularly within the HE sector, I would say you've got so many different groups of people, your estates people, hourly paid lecturers, academics, professional services and so on, and they're each going to have their own different levels of trust. They're each going to have different external factors that are affecting them, barriers to taking part. You know, some are not on laptops all day. How are we going to reach them? So if we really understand each audience group, and particularly managers, which I'll come on to afterwards, that will help you think through that communication plan and what's right for each one. So taking a bit of time to understand that, understanding where they're going to go to for questions about the survey. Inspiring people to take part, that's a major element of a communications plan. And here you'd think about incentives, but not just incentives. Incentives are the first thing you think about, but people want to be inspired in something that is really going to make change happen, believing that putting their feedback in is really going to make change happen. The all-important senior leader endorsement. This is probably the most important part of a communications plan, and I think the case study beforehand really shows that as well, and lots of really successful projects that I've worked on, for sure, it's down to that senior leader endorsement, you know, making sure that they're really committed to the plan. Empowering managers, so communicating with managers, getting them involved, informed, preparing them for what's going to come next. And as Felicity mentioned earlier as well, you can get loads of information and inspiration from them as well, because they'll understand their audiences better. So that's really one way to break down communication barriers. And essentially throughout the communication plan, you are building trust in the whole program, the whole listening piece in your organization. So, you know, communicating out why we're doing this, what we're asking, will really pay dividends. And of course, you know, talking about the reassurance, the anonymity, and so on, that has to go throughout. So essentially, this communications plan should be the foundation to a listening program. So it loops into the next survey. People will see the outcomes, it will feed through, and really create that trust and that build into some strategic changes in your organization. So that's what I would say is the first phase, before the survey goes live, before you're even planning in those first stages, is to get an understanding of your audiences and those bits that I've mentioned there. And then you can apply lots of different tips and communication assets through the various stages of the survey. So these are the four main phases that I always talk about when I'm putting together a survey. The pre-survey, which is typically about 6 to 2 weeks before the survey starts. Your live period, which, you know, is whatever you need it to be, typically about 2 to 4 weeks. And then post-survey, there's loads to do in that first post-survey phase, which I say is about 1 to 4. And then there's the longer term post-survey phase, which can go on and should loop round. You can get quite creative with the pre-survey phase, I would say. As we've already learned today, those pre-survey briefings are so important. Really getting that buy-in, that energy going, getting senior leaders and managers on board is so it's so important for the whole programme, and you'll see that this can tie in post-survey as well. So during those pre-survey briefings, you can also include other assets. You can create line manager guides, for example. You can also include little videos and tips for managers and leaders to share with their teams. That top-down communication stream, so getting that message from the senior leader. A video always works well. Sometimes in-person briefings, town halls, anything that you can do with senior leaders to really inject that energy, to really give the whole survey credibility and commitment that they're committed to seeing it right through to actions. It is imperative at that first stage to get that support. We've recently had a really successful program, and the VC right at the beginning said, this is not going to fail on my watch. I'm going to do this properly, and I'm going to see it right through. And this has been a really successful story for us with our client. And then deciding that incentive. So I'm sure it's a lot of our clients know our tree incentive. That's really popular. What I have learned with working with my HE clients is, a free coffee, a free chocolate bar doesn't really cut it. It does with our corporate clients, but within the HE sector, people want to feel that they're doing something really good, that they're doing something good for the environment, or they're doing something good for people, for future. And, really digging around to see what's going to make a difference for different groups is really important. And I've got an example of a lovely client of mine that's looking into creating a really lovely incentive, which is a donation to a charity, not just any old charity. Charities are really popular, by the way, to put in as an incentive. But this client is deciding to give to a student hardship fund for every survey that is completed, which should really hit that emotive side and get those response rates, as high as possible. And then, of course, you've got all your guides and graphics throughout the pre-survey. So loads of communications in your channels. I won't go through all the list now, but it's the usual things of emails and newsletters and so on. And to really tie it all together, I would also recommend always having a good identity, a good visual identity to bring it together. In this example here, we used a hero image. We also created the strapline, and we put this on posters. Some of them might have been printed out, but mainly on digital screens, these were put up. And this included a QR code. So again, thinking about those audiences, how are they going to access the survey? If they're not on email, they can use QR code, open link. And then that visual was put across all different assets. So on web pages, for example, that are dedicated to your survey, with FAQs, with details as to why. It's great to have all those links. They help everybody, respondents, but also managers, to point towards a place where you can find out information about what's happening with the survey. And obviously post-survey, you can use this as well for all the communications and how the results are going to be shared out. And then during the live phase, you've got plenty to think about in terms of communication as well. You'll have our People Insight reminders going out if you're using emails. But also response rates are live now. So we use live dashboards for communicating out response rates. And it's a good idea to try and share out that responsibility of talking about what numbers we're reaching. Locally, managers or HRBPs or heads of department, for example, could have access to the response rates via a dashboard. And that way they can keep an eye on numbers and identify areas that are struggling and help to identify what we could do to get people to take part. and obviously keep thinking about ideas and so on to get the response rate as high as possible. So that's a good time to think about communications as well. It's not all quiet when the survey's live. And apart from live response rates, you're always thinking about post-survey as well. What are the next steps? Have we got everything in line? Have we got everything ready for those managers and dashboard users? Next, we go into the post-survey phase. So I classify this as, 1 to 4 weeks, or maybe 2 to 6 weeks after the survey closes. And this is usually jam-packed. So one tip that I would also give is to have this really well planned out. Have it planned out pre-survey, what you're going to do, which date, so you can communicate out really honestly and clearly about the next steps. And it's not all a scramble right at the end. And so you can plan in already infographics giving top level results. You can plan in those dashboard demos that Felicity mentioned, which are really great, video graphics, and any guide and support for managers, including those briefing sessions. Just as we did pre-survey, you could do those post-survey to get people on, excited about getting onto the dashboard, excited about getting action planning started. Here are some examples. So video graphics, manager guides, again, post-survey, giving FAQs about dashboard, how do I log in? What happens if I lose my login and so on? What's happening next on action planning? You can have all of that on a guide and support managers and dashboard users. And of course, again, think about all the audiences. Not everybody's going to get a dashboard login. So how are they going to see the results? Is it through a video graphic? Is it through a summary report? Lots of HGs also use a summary report to communicate out results. And finally, just ongoing, communicate throughout. I think lots of organizations do loads of work in the background, actually, but they're not showing it. They're not communicating it. They're not reminding people of what's going on. One of my clients actually, not in the HE sector, but I think it's something that should be thought about in the HE sector. That this client is doing little local area videos of people, managers talking to their people about actions and changes that they've seen since the last survey. So it keeps it really real. It's nice and easy. It keeps it very relative to people. So keeping those updates going by video seems to be really good at the moment. And then, of course, the action plan reporting, keeping an eye on action plans, what percentage of actions are completed or ongoing, and just helping people along the journey and communicating out, success stories and being honest where things are harder to keep going, and that's absolutely fine. So yeah, just joining all the dots and making people feel that feedback is important, that change is happening, that people need to see that really through the communication channels that you have. Okay, I think I'm handing back to Jane.
Thanks, Ania. Yep, so we're going to move on just with some Q&As, and I can see that we've had a few come through as well. So we have put some time in to do Q&As, and we'll get going with a few that have come through, and then I can have a look on the Q&A section as well. So firstly, just in terms of comms, and you will just keep on that topic for a few minutes. Obviously, it's such an important aspect for all parts of the staff survey. Is there a one must do from you in terms of the one must do action, your approach?
The one must do is to get the senior leader endorsement. That's definitely what I would say. That video or that message that comes out from the beginning and keeping it going throughout is the must do action from comms point of view.
I think if it's all right with you, Felicity, we've got one that's come in from Rory, who said, could you let me know what lessons you learned about encouraging teams to add their action plans? So anything on team level or managers with any actions? How did you encourage them?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and something that we did struggle with. In fact, we're now 7 months in, and we've probably only now got every manager to have completed their action plan. So in terms of lessons learned, we next time that action plans need to be put together, we will encourage participation a lot quicker and start doing a little bit of chasing a little bit quicker. But what's critical for me is our HR business partners, because they have full access to the survey themselves, so that they can see their teams that they speak to on a day-to-day basis, and can then encourage and say, look, your action plans are not up there, come on, we don't want to be on the naughty list. It's not quite like that, but you know, we want people to see that we're doing something as a result of the comments and feedback that they've given us. So it's involving those HR business partners and giving them access to the dashboard has been the best way of us encouraging managers to complete their engagement, their action plans.
Yeah, and interesting when you point that, Felicity, because we've got, so I'm going to talk in a few minutes actually about some workshops that we've got that we've been using with some other universities that have been quite useful for just helping the managers too. I'm going to just go to a question that Roberta actually asked around keeping the momentum going between surveys and any thoughts that we might have. So I'll sort of start from my experience, and if anyone wants to come in, Felicity or Ania, then certainly in terms of maintaining that momentum, for me this is around the capability. It's around the why is listening important. They're going back to that focus on linking the survey results to initiatives that are happening. So it's likely that, you know, there are things happening and we maybe need to make sure we are marrying them. And I had one university ask me yesterday, well, it's not exactly definitely because of the survey, but we've been doing it and we have got the evidence from the survey, and completely we should be sharing that, you know, following the survey we've been doing X, Y and Z, because the survey is one part of that listening activity. There will be a lot going on and we need to share with staff all the different activities. There is so many programs, transformation work, updates, new strategies, new work happening across the sector. When we talk to universities, there's so much, and it's looking at the links that we can say, you know, from the staff survey, we've been using the evidence to help inform, you know, the way that we're going to be sharing our rewards, for example, or whatever it might be. So it's that constant linking back, and the communication is really tricky because sometimes, you know, it needs resource to go on it, but that would definitely be my suggestion in terms of the communication, linking it back, and just supporting managers with why that's really important, the listening side of things, and being really honest. You can't do everything, but we're going to focus on, you know, these things, for example, that have come up. So I don't know, Felicity, if you've got anything else to add on that keeping momentum.
Well, I would just like to confirm what you've just said, Jane, because every sentence that I say at the university is as a result of the survey. So I link absolutely everything. Career development came up as a lower score for us. So I was going to introduce apprenticeships for existing staff to develop their skills, but I'm doing it as a result of the staff engagement survey and what you said. So everything that because we are doing initiatives across the university that are meeting those, we know those issues. There was no shocks for us in our results. So yeah, everything I say starts with, well, as a result of the staff engagement survey. So yeah, that keeps that momentum going.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, we'll go to a couple more questions that came in earlier. So what have been the biggest challenges when it comes to gathering data from surveys? I would definitely say the biggest challenge I see in the sector is the post-survey side of things, and what happens post-survey, and having that really clear plan of clear owners, and also accountability of the expectations. So what are we expecting, being really clear, and how is that going to be reported? So in our tool we can see how many actions have gone in the tool, what those actions are, how they link to different questions. So, you know, we've got universities who are reporting back maybe every term to say, you know, we've got 30% of the actions have been completed, and we're seeing many of the actions around these particular questions and areas. So they're being reported back, and then obviously sharing good practice for those actions. So just talking through, this team have been working on these actions, which is great, to hopefully encourage others, not necessarily, you know, to be working on their actions and looking at the conversations that they should be having. And it shouldn't be seen as a massive piece of work, because they should be talking with their teams regularly. And this is where helping with those conversations can be really important, because for some people, they'll love talking to their team about this, and others will probably, you know, want to run a mile because it's quite, you know, daunting in some respects. So it's just making sure we're supporting managers with them conversations post-survey. Interesting one that came up about what do you do when leaders are negative about listening to staff, and that's quite challenging, I would say, when you've got maybe the senior team who, you know, is it a tick box exercise? Is it that, you know, they don't want to do anything post survey, and they're not being authentic with actually why they're doing the listening activity? So I think it goes back to the why. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of it? And, you know, why do we need to listen to staff? We need to adapt. We need to make sure that it's a great place for people to work. We need to make sure that we are using evidence to inform decisions that are being made across the university, and not just hearsay or, you know, following what we think is going to work. So this is a really hard element, and we see it sometimes, and it is really tricky for the project team to overcome this barrier. So if anyone's got any tips on, because it has come up as a question, on ideas and supporting senior leaders to be more positive about the whole listening approach, whatever that might be, it would be really great to share in the Q&A, I think.
One of the things that I would like to mention here is I've noticed coming into the university that you write a paper for everything, and that gets sent up to UEC, and they've got a pile like this of papers. So my approach was to present to the senior leadership team, to go into their UEC and SLT meetings and bring it all alive, you know, really, you know, show that passion and enthusiasm for the benefits that they're going to get by listening to the survey. And that's absolutely, you know, our coup says to me all the time, your passion and enthusiasm is so infectious. So that I do think that will help. If it's a dead piece of paper that they're reading, there's no real understanding there. So if you can present, it certainly benefited me for doing that.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Felicity. And I've got one that I'm reading here. From Alison, what's the best survey length to get the best response rate? This is a really tricky question. Anya, I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yes, I'll take that one. So typically about 3 weeks is a good time, though we see lots of organisations then extending because perhaps they're not too satisfied with the response rates they've got. But then equally, we don't want to make it too long, because a really long open period just gets a bit boring and people don't really believe in it anymore. So I'd say within the HE sector, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks, but no more than that is enough.
And just in terms of the length of the survey, so we've certainly found that lots of universities are very open to being more concise with their questions. So kind of gone are the days of the 170 questions that were once happening many moons ago, and it's a very focused question set on, you know, what are the objectives of this survey? It's around engagement, it's about looking at the experience, so let's focus on them key areas so we can get some actionable questions. When we start to add in, as we do, you know, questions for specific researchers, or, you know, the mandatory Athena Swan questions, it then becomes obviously a lot bigger. So it means that we're losing the focus of the surveys in some way. So I would definitely recommend having a really clear focus and to collect that data, the other data that you need. It might be that you do a pulse survey. It might be that you do a separate thing with the researchers, for example. And we've now got lots of universities using the self-serve platform. So they're able to adapt and use that for specific groups or very specific needs. So we're seeing a really big shift to very focused. So generally the main survey tends to be around 40-45 questions with all different variations on pulse, but maybe 10-15 questions, just as a guide there.
Yes, you don't want the survey to take too long to complete. That really puts people off. So, you know, more than 50 questions, I'd say, takes too long for people to take time out of their precious working day. So yeah, not too long.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the question and answers there, but if you have got anything further, let us know, and what we'll do is we'll do a summary, because there have been questions which we're really grateful have come through and we have not covered them, so we will do some sort of summary and send that out afterwards as well. We are coming to the close though, but I did want to share some really exciting updates with you. So we've got 3 exciting updates to share with you. The first one being, I'm delighted to announce that we're launching our higher education manager / leader / local leader workshops. So these have come out of, we've been working with several universities on workshops to help their managers build their capability on staff listening and data analytics. And we've been doing it for individual universities for their manager groups. So putting maybe, hundreds of managers through these workshops. And we've started to see the impact of going on these workshops with, as you'd imagine, we've asked questions before and after, and we're seeing managers saying, improvements in being able to have difficult conversations, being able to look at the data and do something with it. So we've decided to put them on for the general university sector on a participant by participant basis. So it might mean that, a local manager is on the workshop with another local manager from another university. It's not sharing any data, it's just sharing skills, knowledge, capability. So there's 3 virtual workshops, and they'll get a little certificate at the end as well around data literacy, around supporting with data analytics. So we're going to be running them at set times during the year. At the moment, we're starting the first ones off in November as our sort of first go, and we will be running them into 2024. So it might be before or after a survey, and it might be just individual people, it might be a group of people as well. So if you are interested and want more information, let me know. We're very excited about them. The other thing, again, coming from feedback from one of our lovely university clients, was around making sure that within the tool, we have got an area to show what overall actions are happening. So when managers go into the tool and they're putting their actions, they can see what's happening overall and what the next steps are and any communication and actions that the organisation wants to share. So we've added a tab called, it's called in here Survey Next Steps, but it might be like overall actions, and we can put in text around actions overall. And I think it's a real, we're seeing, that it's starting to be used, which is fantastic. So managers can see that. We can put video, we can put imagery in there as well. So that's come as a direct result of listening to the sector. And the final thing is we're working with UCEA on looking at some overall higher education trends. So we've been creating a report to say, what's it really like to work in higher education, using obviously the amazing data that we've got, nearly 300,000 HE employees, to give the trend. So not to give any detail of who said anything about attributing to any area. It's looking at the overall trends of what is it like working in the university sector, to really look at, the great things about working in the sector, and there are many, because sometimes it can be rather negative, but there's a lot of amazing stuff around working in the university sector. So highlighting that, and also some of the opportunities for improvement as well. So they're being shared with UCEA in draft format at the moment. And when we get the final version, we will share them with our contacts as well. And finally, just to say, we've talked about Eden reforestation. We will be planting a tree for everyone who's attended today. So thank you very much for attending. And Felicity, for being our guest speaker today, will be planting 100 trees. So thank you very, very much. It's been great to have you, talk to us today. And hopefully, there might be some more questions and connections for you after the session. And yeah, thanks very much for joining. I've already got the next one lined up with Liverpool John Moore, so pop it in your diary for the 7th of December, and we will be sending information out nearer the time as well. And as I say, we will get back to any Q&As, or if you've got any comments, and please do send them on, forward them over to us. So I will close there because it is 12 o'clock on the dot. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully I'll speak to many of you soon.